way.
So let's introduce ourselves. This is our first podcast on YouTube for Firefly Counseling Collective. I'm Carrie Ford Moranci.
And I'm Sarah Ross.
And we work together as co-owners of Firefly Counseling Collective. And so we're just interested in reaching out to people and using this as another venue to interact and engage with people around holistic healing approaches.
Yeah. Can you say like maybe why we wanted to go the route of like YouTube versus maybe a different like just audio podcast?
Well, part of it is, I think, just technologically speaking, in terms of why we have our practice in the first place. COVID shutting down the world gave us an opportunity to try telehealth. And I think we liked it so much that we decided to open our own practice using telehealth only. We do not offer in-person therapy, but this venue, as opposed to others, I think is just more easily accessible. So I think we go to YouTube for so many different things like EFT tapping, how to calm down our parasympathetic system according to the polyvagal theory when anxious and highly stressed. So why wouldn't we encourage our own clients and other people who want to engage with us to check our YouTube channel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think too, like for us, like we've known each other for so long. We met, I think back in like 2007, I was fresh. Did I meet you during my internship year? I don't even know if I had graduated grad school yet. We met so long ago. We've known each other for a while. We've worked together most of like all these years.
Yeah,
I think we have a funny dynamic. And so I think the video captures that more than the audio. And also we have been trying to do things to push ourselves out of our comfort zones. And for me, this is a major, major step out of my comfort zone, which I wouldn't do without you.
So you might convince me to wear leggings in public and I can convince you to do a YouTube podcast.
To put my whole like self in front of the world, not just a store.
Right. So that's where we're at. So it'll be interesting. And we need obviously to get followers and people to like and subscribe, but also really just to push us with comments and questions and feedback, because we're totally open to that. We're constantly seeking, learning, and understanding not only of the approach that we take as therapists, but in our own approach to healing, health, and wellness, because I think we agree that therapists need therapy, but not only therapy, we need a whole team of help. I refer to people all the time about my own acupuncturist who helps supplement what work I'm doing, personal trainers, gym memberships, things like that, that really keep us on the right track in our lives. Therapy is one part of that, which is helpful.
Yeah.
So did you want to say anything about your background and what brought you to creating Firefly Counseling Collective?
Sure. Yeah, I think like I just mentioned, we've known each other for so long. We started talking about opening a practice not too long after we met. At the time, we worked at an agency together and one of their programs was shutting, which left this amazing building open. And we kind of just jokingly tossed out like, we should open a practice there and offer all these modalities. And then it just kind of faded, which probably had to happen at that time. We didn't know what we were doing.
No, and our paths kept crossing. So we continued to work together. So it worked out well for us.
Yeah. And then COVID happened and we were both in a place where we were like, well, why not? We're doing it now. We're working telehealth. We're making this, we're figuring it out. We're making it work. Like, why not try and do it on our own? And we can work together. And like, I love having somebody that I know and trust. And I mean, I think we're pretty honest with each other. We see the good, bad, and the ugly of each other. And I think that's important when working together.
Right.
I think, we named it Firefly Counseling Collective because we really want this to grow to a collective of people that we have different modalities that we can either offer our clients or just other clinicians that we can work with and like bounce ideas off of and better ourselves both
Yeah.
professionally and personally.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but I think when we developed the name Firefly Counseling Collective, we were really intentional about broadening the scope of what we could do because we've both been in supervisory roles. We've both attended a ton of workshops. We're both very dedicated to lifelong learning. And so not only do we want other modalities like therapy, in addition to therapy, like yoga and things like that, but it also broadens the scope of who else can join us and what offerings we can provide in, educational formats or group gatherings like peer consultation or peer or group supervision and things like that.
Yeah, and when we came up with the name Firefly Counseling Collective, we took a lot of time. We were really intentional with finding a name that was meaningful and available.
Well, yeah, it can be really scary to uncover some of the things that I help our clients identify in counseling. So that really speaks to why we chose Firefly as a symbol.
Yeah, I think, on our website, there's a little introduction to what fireflies represent. And I think it's such a good analogy for what therapy can be and just connecting with other people. Fireflies are a light in the darkness. They remind us to connect with a more innocent, playful, just curious side of us that I think we lose as we get older. And so, and we also wanted something that was creative, and we're both creative people. And so when we were playing with names and looking at what names have different meanings, and we found Firefly, it just was like an immediate, like that's it.
Agreed completely. Yeah. So I'm really happy with what we've done so far. And then just being able to grow our practice and build our client base has been phenomenal. And now it seems to be a well-oiled machine with not even a year in. So I think come October will be our anniversary, and we'll have to celebrate at that time. But yeah, so it's really exciting to think about like how it is to be able to work from home and have total flexibility, but to really provide for our clients what they need. So there is, I think for both of us, we come with a specialization with trauma, and that speaks very well to the training that we received, with our years at Catholic Charities and other agencies, because that's such an important need that people come to therapy with, that they have to have a safe place to be able to process past trauma because it's probably impacting the current dynamic and patterns in their lives and relationships. But are there other areas that you find you really are interested in practicing and pursuing?
Yeah, I think, well, actually, before I answer that, something that you mentioned about us opening and like the flexibility and doing it on our own, I think is so important because it also just frees up so much mental energy to really focus on what we want to learn so we can be better clinicians, friends, colleagues, peers to other people. Whereas before, we both worked in supervisory positions. We've done, big agencies, and you just get so bogged down with all the other things you have to do, and you lose sight of like why we are doing this job.
Well,
and
it's
so
hard.
I think,
and people forget that we're human as therapists, and we've been living through the same pandemic that everyone else has been going through, that we've been helping people go through at the same time. It's been very challenging.
Yeah. Well, some of the other things that I'm really interested in, I work with a lot of people with anxiety disorders and traumas, like you mentioned, but mostly anxieties. But some of the things that I've really gotten into as we've branched out on our own, I'm super passionate about learning about the Enneagram. I love talking about the Enneagram. And that's really my focus, over the next couple of years, is attracting the people who also want to use that in therapy or even coaching, and combined with the CBT experience or the trauma-based work. I think it just meshes so well with other teachings that we've done.
It just helps people make sense things. Like that's why I love learning about IFS. The internal family
Yeah.
systems approach is incredible because it's just the most accessible language of any modality, treatment modality that I've learned about over the last 20 years. And it's just been so powerful to practice it in my own life, to be empowered to practice it with clients. But in as simple of terms as using parts language, like a part of me feels this, or a part of me is feeling this other competing need, being able to have that dialogue with clients and myself is so powerful in relationship to clients even. So
Yeah.
maybe transference is something we should talk about in a
Yeah,
future
no, I love
podcast.
what you just said. I mean, people talk about parts. We say that all the time without even realizing what we're doing. And for me, the Enneagram is so tied to that. And that it's similar. We all, if people are not familiar with the Enneagram, the idea is that there's these 9 types, and we all have those traits in us, but certain ones come out more. So from a parts perspective, just being curious about like what happened to that part that can be vulnerable or
I bet that's exactly what you just said is probably why I always believed I was a 2 and now why I'm convinced I'm a 7. Because in grad school, when I was introduced, a lot of theology schools, and I studied pastoral ministry, like a lot of theology schools will introduce the Enneagram as a spiritual practice. And so that's how I learned about it. And we would have phenomenal discussions about it, but I swore I was a 2, maybe even an 8. But
interesting.
They all play off of each other, and in different times or areas of our life, I think different dominant types of our personality come out. So now it makes a lot more sense to me as to like who I am is truly more like a 7. But that's because I think I've turned 50 and I'm coming more into myself as a person, that I'm more open to that then. I think I wanted to be a 2, but I don't like negative traits. So I'm glad I'm a 7 now. So anyway,
but it's hard. We're in
conversations that I've been able to gradually come to that.
Yeah. And I think we're in a helping field. So naturally, I think most therapists, if anybody's familiar with what a 2 is on the Enneagram, they're the helpers or the lovers.
Oh, it's so easy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think even if we're not a 2, being a therapist really like pulls out that like desire to help and be connected to
definitely right. And of course, learning about social work, learning as I did about social work and pastoral ministry, both of those fields just draw out the helpers and 2, just ground it in faith. And so it really, I guess it does make sense as to why at that time I was absolutely convinced I was a 2. But it's been really helpful to have ongoing conversations with you about the different types and the different roles and the different roles that I have, like within my family or within my profession or within my friendships, that would bring out those, natural abilities. So, and it is.
Well, and also, I mean, when we went to grad school, it really, the direct message was never like give until you burn out, but the indirect messages are give until you just run yourself into the ground. Right. So I think, it makes sense that anybody in, this type of role, like naturally just has a lot of the traits of a 2.
Well, so then to wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted our viewers to know or think about, or should we pull an oracle card to leave with some inspiration?
Sure. Yeah, I know we had talked about maybe doing some sort of mindfulness or oracle card as we wrap up. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just pull something and maybe we can give people something to think about.
So I love this deck called the Upward Spiral card deck. It's 52 ways to reverse the course of depression, one small change at a time. And it was developed by Alex Korb. So I'm just going to pull a random, it's not an oracle card. I'm hoping you'll have your oracle deck.
I do have them and we can
Here's a lovely suggestion in the action card. It says, try yoga. Poses that open your chest. See, I always have to do pigeon and open up my hips. But poses that open up your chest with a back bend are particularly helpful for improving mood. Oh, that's good to know. Lean your head back, open your arms to the sky, and breathe in deeply. Oh, try cobra, upward facing dog, camel, or bridge pose. Sign up for a beginner-friendly yoga class or try an online video. I do love some yoga with Adrienne. She's free on YouTube. So that's amazing. But yeah, of course, you can't go wrong with yoga. Seriously.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I used to be super into hot yoga and aerial yoga, and I wish I had the well, where I'm living, there's not really a lot of yoga places close by, especially that do aerial yoga, but I would love to get back into it.
I thought you were going to get silk tongue in your house.
I almost did at the last house I lived at,
Oh, right.
but the construction, the way the house was built, I guess the support beams were metal and not wood, so you couldn't hang stuff in the supports from the ceiling. So
yeah. Wow.
yes, maybe one day.
One day, that would be amazing.
And we should also say we are not promoting any, you mentioned the name of the deck. We're not promoting anything. We're not making money off of it.
Yep.
We're just saying things that we like, that we've found helpful, and hopefully
we love to recommend resources. Anything to enhance somebody's journey toward wholeness is really important. So yes, but we do not own the rights to any of the resources or music that we share. Is there anything else to wrap up?
I think that's a good place to wrap up today.
This was great.
Yeah, and we're
Thanks
probably
for getting out of your comfort zone with me.
Oh my gosh. Yes. If
I
people
can't wait
knew. I'm excited to talk more. I'm excited to talk more about the Enneagram just in our personalities, because if you are a 7 and I'm a 5, we're so opposites, even though we're both head types and thinking types.
Yep.
7s and 5s are so opposite, but I think that is one of the reasons why we also work well together, because they also connect on the Enneagram. There's a line that connects them. So during times of growth, we each go to each other's numbers, and so I think we just naturally kind of balance each other out a little bit.
Well, and of course we have totally balanced each other out in terms of one of us freaking out about starting the business and the other one being in a calm, more relaxing place. That has just been good synergy as far as the last year is concerned. But I think our commitment to brutal honesty has been really good, and we're not brutal. It's such a negative word to describe it, but it's just really about maintaining our friendship above all else, and not allowing business to interfere with that. We've been in business together before, not only working through Catholic Charities, but running that side hustle with direct sales for 6 months. It was a brief stint, but we learned a lot and we had a blast doing it, but we were glad to also get out. So that was, really helpful, but I think we already knew we had a great working relationship. So this will be a lot of fun. So I hope people will join us for the ride.
I do think it was helpful when we first started, to share. We did come up with this idea that we're allowed to be anxious, but when one's anxious, the other just needs to be the calm one. We can't both be anxious at the same time. And it seems to actually just naturally work. There's things I get anxious about and you're like, Sarah, stop. Just cut it out.
Okay. Next topic, climate change and fear of death. We definitely need to address those issues. Hot topic.
And then your fear of being organized, paying the bills and figuring out the accounting stuff. I'm like,
I don't know why I have the checkbook.
It's worked.
But you trust me, so I guess I have to trust myself.
Yeah. Well, that's a good place to wrap up, and a good message for everybody. Just trusting yourself that you have the skills to figure it out.
Yeah. Hopefully people will join us next week.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.